I've remembered now. The flu symptoms. It's not necessarily flu. What it is, that Gemini full moon, it's some astral influence, and it's basically some sort of spiritual realignment going on. Cat's got it as well. And I'm going to be making a video on this because I get the idea. It's not the normal case. If I'm feeling something, I know a lot of other people are going to be feeling it, but they may not know what they're feeling. So this is a classic example. The body will have these flu-like sensations, aching joints and things.
Yes.
And the conscious mind will automatically take that signal as being its flu. What it actually is the body just saying rest. Now, yesterday I was up a ladder.
A lot of people are saying they're tired.
I started feeling a bit dizzy to start with, and then I
Including
started
me.
getting all the joints in my fingers, elbows, shoulders, neck, everything started to ache, and it's like, if I didn't know different, this feels like I'm going down with the flu. But I made sure I was in bed about 8, and I thought I'm going to have a really good night's sleep, which I did, and sure enough, absolutely no sign of it today. So that's what I would say is actually going on, because this isn't really the right time of year. It's normally triggered by when it goes from summer into autumn. So September is the normal time to get flu, and also when it goes into spring, it triggers something in the body that releases toxins. So that's where you get the temperatures and the sweating. It's like a cinema where suddenly the fire alarm's gone off and all the emergency exits will open. So the body will eject accumulated toxins over 6 months, and it will just, it's like in the kitchen where you've got a bag of rubbish in the bin. You don't take every individual thing out into the wheelie bin. You bag it up and get rid of it in one go. And that's exactly what the body does. Because it's been very carefully blended. A dis-ease, flus and colds are not, because a dis-ease is an artificially created thing. But this is the natural body process. But they spin it and flip the thing. Oh, you feel bad, or we'll give you something that masks the symptoms so it doesn't ache so much. But that's actually doing ultimately long-term damage. It's like, don't suppress the pain, it's just the body's way of communicating. It's better to sit with it. You can alleviate it with honey and lemon, and just, if the body's saying rest as and when, do so as much as possible. It'll heal a lot quicker that way. But if I don't manage to get directly in contact with Christian, maybe just share this voicemail with a bit about the breathing. It's also a great way, if you're focusing on the deep, slow breathing. You can't worry about anything because your focus is entirely on taking conscious control of the breathing. So it's a wonderful thing. It's like someone says, what do you do for a living? I turn around and say, well, breathe, of course. How else am I supposed to live? But it's the inroad into the body is the communication is through the breathing. By doing that, it's sending a signal, and it starts to communicate with the rest of the body from the mind. The whole significance of drum beats in meditations is to bring the heart rate down to a relaxed state. It's vibration and timing that comes into all this sort of thing. So I don't get ill. But I've learned that communication with the sensation the body is sending to the mind. And now, with a sort of far more awareness of I've got to learn this language that the body is actually speaking. But and it's working. It's just like, well, when you don't feel good, it's the body's way of saying stop and rest, and it'll recharge. Because they're self-repairing, if you think about it. If you get a paper cut, how long is it cut for? You don't consciously think the skin back together. It just does it automatically. They're quite marvellous things, these bodies. But it is only the vehicle that we're in that they flipped it. So, funerals, deaths, that person's gone, that whole negative loss feeling, it's a sick ritual, the way it's done. It should really be a celebration. It's like they're the lucky ones. They're out of this realm that is actually death. Because it is a copy. The good news is, it is all going to change. But, you've only got to look at the pattern, like with the Dracula film. When does the Prince of Darkness ever come along and save its servants? When their usefulness is over, they're expendable. So what is actually coming is going to be the complete opposite of what people think it's going to be. All this doom and gloom and stuff. It's going to be the complete opposite. It will be what you could say is the grand architect is going to turn on its chosen, because that's the only one that can do it, the one that orchestrated it in the first place, and to the rest of the world it will look like the saviour. Because to the rest of the world it's like, oh, the evil banking dynasty, the corruption in pharmacy and all this, it'll expose the whole lot. The early stages are already happening. I don't know if you've come across a channel called Forbidden Knowledge. This guy called Billy Carson, who claims to have an IQ of 144 and claims to be able to decipher Sumerian ciphers, but doesn't actually prove it. Well, he's now being hung out to dry, being attacked from this rising Christian Southern Baptist sector that's building in the United States. So that's why everything that's happening in the UK is going on, because it is to create the exact opposite reaction in the USA. It'll be basically, in the UK you've got 1984 playing out. That's why you've got all the cameras everywhere, Big Brother is watching, as it were. But that is because the British Isles and Ireland are very small areas surrounded by sea. It's far easier to pull that off. You couldn't do that infrastructure in the States. But by then pumping the media to the United States, showing all this coverage of what's going on in the UK, is actually going to reinforce and work hand in hand with this, what is basically the Fourth Reich, which is going to come out on masquerading as Christianity. Probably to the level where there'll be a church service going on, they'll be burning someone at the stake outside, if it gets that extreme, which it could well do. You've only got to look at the way people behave on Black Friday, fighting over widescreen TVs and all that nonsense, to see how most of humanity will behave, and that's why the system gets away with it, because people won't stick together. But that's their path. The thing is to not get involved in any of it. But this is just got to play out. It is a world stage, and this story just has to play out. I mean, my role, as I said on, I think it was the last video, is to take the light from this world. And that is internally. And the light I'm referring to is what we see as light, which is actually illumination, and it is keyed in the word illumination. It's false light. Like this thing that will emerge is a false saviour. It's the false light. We're in a realm that has a perception of duality, so if there's a light bringer, there has to be something that takes the light away. Whether it is this being that's talking to you now that is the one that does it, or it's somebody else in the external sense, that will have to play out anyway. But it is all spiritual evolution, the spiritual evolution of humanity, and for there to be an evolution, there must be something that goes extinct compared to something that is going to develop into the next stage. This whole talk about going to 5D is a perfect example of it. So there is nothing at all to worry about. I mean, if worst comes to the worst for me, it's going to be, well, hey, at least I've proven to you that aliens do exist, because I've been classed as an illegal alien, so therefore aliens do exist. But I watch what the system does, and then it's usually a very good indicator to do the exact opposite. So for an example of that, you think of clothing, one size fits all. How can you do a shirt just on collar size? What about lengths of arms and things? So if someone's 5'4" as opposed to someone who's 6'4", they might have the same collar size, but what about the length of the sleeves? And this whole thing about diets and things as well. You've got to be vegan, and well, just look at Santa Spinaci in recent years and just ask yourself, is he a picture of health? Does he look healthy to you? would be my answer to that. My view on it is go with what the body is saying it wants, not obviously a Big Mac, but it's how the mind will interpret it. It's probably like vitamin K in the meat or something. But again, it's be discerning on where you source your food from as much as you possibly can. But when you consider, like in the 70s, all the E numbers and all the shit and all the margarine, a lot of people have had, they're still here. These bodies are quite resilient, really. He says, coughing, sounding healthy. But no, everything's absolutely fine. Thing to look at it with that job, it's school holidays soon, so you will get a break from it. I know it can be monotonous and things, but that's how jobs are designed to be by the system, to be as boring and monotonous as possible, as possible on purpose. Oh, sorry about the coughing. Anyway, this has got rather long, but if you want to use any of that in a video, or send it to Christian as well, hopefully that will help him. But don't go down the pharmacy route, don't go down the chemo route, don't have anything to do with anything pharmaceutical would be my advice to anyone, because the bodies are self-healing. And how many women have had a vasectomy because of the program is saying, oh, you've got cancer, when it's a fungus that could have been very easily sorted out with a change in diet. But that's how sick the system actually is. And what do they do with all these body parts they remove? Big back, anyone? Not saying that is, but that wouldn't surprise me, because the system will recycle everything and they will feed us our own shit back, if they can get away with it. Think of the water. It's chemically treated, and then they sell it back to you until it's good for you. Complete opposite as always. It's just recognising the patterns with everything in this reality. I mean, it actually becomes, I'm totally indifferent to it all. I don't watch what's going on in the world. I'd be the worst person at general knowledge. So what if something happens in the Ukraine or in Saudi Arabia or wherever, it's like, it doesn't affect me. I don't see any evidence of it here. I don't hear any explosions or anything. It's always somewhere else over there that you can't even verify. It's just media stories to keep things going. It is very much like Big Brother, in that story where there's the population are told there's a war and you've got to do for the war effort against this other group in Asia or something, and how do we know any of it's true? It's all stories to get you to pick a side. But there is a way to navigate through it and actually get a certain amount of detachment from it. So because it's always trying to get your attention back into it and get you to emit a negative emotion, because it's energy harvesting. It is a vampire as well. Have you ever considered why they make such a big thing about handshakes between two world leaders who are always the photographs? It's because it's two hands working hand in hand, like left wing and right wing. It's just symbolically rubbing it in people's faces. They're very good at doing that. But everything external is a reflection, so even what they do, if you undo the twist in what they're showing, it reveals a hell of a lot more. Sorry that was so long, and I forgot to say love to you, Karen, and hopefully, as and when you can, take rest whenever you can. It's the best way. It's just a way of recharging the batteries, really.